Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up is our mega statement read by our student representatives.
All students will graduate with the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors necessary to achieve their personal goals and make a positive impact in the world.
All right, and then you also have a student representative report for us.
Good evening, board members and community members. Here's what's happening across our district as we start 2026. As 2026 begins, all 6 elementary schools have welcomed students back from winter break with a focus on learning, growth, and assessments. Students are participating in mid-year benchmark testings, helping teachers guide instructions, support individual progress. Schools are encouraging healthy routines at home, including sleep, attendance, and reading, while also offering fun events like jump rope contests and musical performances to keep students engaged.
Homestead will start the second round of Fast Bridge assessments. Families may recall reviewing Fast Bridge data during parent-teacher conferences. At Hillcrest, the winter concert was well attended and very successful. Students under the direction of Mrs. Wallace delivered a strong performance that reflected their hard work and the support of the Hillcrest community. Also at Hillcrest, during winter recess period, staff have noticed an increase in physical play behaviors due to snow and expanded outdoor play areas. In response, staff have reinforced recess expectations, adjusted outdoor space by grade level, and will continue reviewing expectations with students.
Jim Falls held a last-minute Deck the Halls event despite a last-minute scheduled change. The event was well attended and raised $3,821 for the school. At Parkview, staff encouraged families to take advantage of the winter season by supporting learning through activities such as reading together, playing educational games, and exploring simple science concepts at home. Stilson is conscious discipline focus for January, emphasizing the power of free will, encouraging students to understand that they are responsible for their choices and act with integrity.
CFMS is showing growth in academics, activities, and relationships. Students have competed in a school-wide spelling bee on January 22nd, showing courage and pride. Middle school musicians represented the district at the UW-Eau Claire Fine Arts Festival as part of the Middle School Honors Band. CFMS Cardinals in Action are planning a fun run in April, which will fund a future outdoor classroom. Winter 2 sports started, including basketball, wrestling, and boys swim. January is full of student learning, creativity, and leadership.
At Chi High, students in Art of Film class created a collaborative project inspired by Life is Beautiful. Senior Olivia Miller was recognized as a youth mental wellness champion for CISA 10. Students earned awards in art shows, and DECA raised $4,003.16 during Wish Week to grant a local child's wish. Students appreciate asynchronous learning days with winter weather, which keeps everyone safe. Additionally, during the PAC meeting, students expressed liking the rule on the code of conduct where the first offense students are given a second chance before immediate expulsion.
For clubs, FBLA collected over 325 pairs of shoes for food drives. Spanish and French clubs shared holiday traditions and held fun activities like gift swaps. DECA competed at regionals with several students earning top placements, and FFA was collecting puzzles throughout the month for assistant living homes.
Performing arts had a very impactful month. Wire choir performed for elementary schools on tour. Harmonics competed at Holman and will compete again on January 24th. Orchestra hosted a candlelight concert with pop and movie music performances.
And then winter sports highlights: boys swim, multiple individuals and relay wins. Boys basketball, several exciting wins, including breaking a 32-game losing streak in the Big Rivers Conference. Girls basketball, strong performance, including come from behind wins. Boys and girls hockey, many wins and youth engagement activities. Wrestling, many students placing at tournaments, including first, second, and third places. And gymnastics competed in 3 meets, showing improvement with final scores up to 136.225. Across all buildings, students are learning, creating, and serving their communities, and showing Cardinal pride. Thank you.
Board members have any questions for our student representatives?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you very much for another thorough report. All right, next is the public comment section of the meeting, under 4.01, welcome and guidelines for public comment. Do we have anyone signed up?
We do not.
All right, we'll move on to showcase a school. 5.01 is the Chippewa Falls Senior High School. Donna Goodman.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For those of you at home listening to the live stream, I'm Donna Goodman, and I'm very grateful and proud to be the principal at Chi High. And tonight, we are honored to be invited in to showcase our social studies department, which is our main focus of our operational expectation for the month of January. And Katie Koppenberger will be talking to you about that data later on. And so here to highlight all of the awesome things are our academic chairs, John Kinville and Jason Bob. But I'm so proud to introduce both of them. They have been an outstanding leadership team for our students, staff, and our entire school community. Through their leadership alone, our students have learned how to respectfully share their voices with our state representatives about pressing issues right in the classroom, how to register to vote, how to impact changes in our community, and even how to make trades in our stock market. All of these things keep the students engaged in school and prepare them for the real world. Tonight, they will share the key indicators of success within all the areas taught within the entire Department of Social Studies and share the important work around that we're working upon developing the portrait of a graduate. So now I'd like to turn it over to John and Jason for tonight's showcase.
Well, thank you very much, boss. We appreciate it. Thank you for the warm introduction.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Should we stand to the side or just here or? Perfect, thank you.
Whatever you want.
All right, sounds good. If you go back to the picture before, we call ourselves the A-Team in a group text that we have. And our group consists of not just our social studies department, but also our special ed teachers that assist us. We're a very tight group. And we call ourselves the A-Team. It's an old reference back to a TV show from the 80s, and I see a couple people nodding. And we call ourselves the A-Team not because we're trying to one-up the other departments or anything like that, but it's more of us trying to strive to always be better. And we have kind of a slogan unofficially, but that is, every day we get after it. Every day we get after it. There's no wasted minute, there's no wasted day. Every day we get after it. And that really comes from, I don't know, Packer culture, Vince Lombardi, 5-time champion, where he had a wonderful quote, and that was, perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can capture excellence. And that's really the goal. And as both Chi High grads ourselves, and Mr. Ali is a Chi High grad in our department, we had wonderful role models and leaders, and so we feel like we have a very strong responsibility to carry that mantle. And so with innovative teaching, with measurable success, we truly are dedicated to turn every single cardinal into candidates for governor, for example, and future law school attendee and also future teacher. So we take it very, very seriously. And Mr. Bob is going to talk a little bit about our department's vision.
Yeah, so this year we were introduced to the idea of the portrait of a graduate. And as we were talking about what we were going to discuss tonight, the thing that kind of stood out to me was within social studies, this is easy. Like the portrait of a graduate, all of the characteristics that you see on the screen are things that we do every single day. So whether it's government, economics, history, whatever it is we teach, all of these things are implemented, and we strive to include these in every lesson that we have. With that being said, you know, this is an image that we focus on. What we really focus on, and I think our department does really, really well, is developing relationships with students and focusing on them first, and then building these things in. And if you think about the 5 headings, and we're going to talk about them individually in a minute, but again, like I said, the nice thing with social studies is I don't know if you can be an engaged citizen and not be an effective communicator. Like, those things have to go hand in hand. I don't think we can try and fix societal concerns or problems without being a resilient thinker. Like, you have to be a problem solver. You have to figure these things out. And so the next slides that you'll see, we kind of go through each one and show you what we do with real students in real classrooms every single day.
Yeah, and the first one, engaged citizen, which is something that I know our department takes very seriously. This is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And so few in our country's history get to say that they lived through that. Everybody in our department is a patriot. Everybody in our department believes in what this country means and what we're trying to do. And the big thing that we like to do is to take what we do in the classroom and try to model the connectivity to the larger world. And I think we have a unique opportunity in social studies to do that. So for example, with the state civics exam, which I proctor along with Ms. Hubers, the goal is not just proficiency. You're going to do as well as you humanly can on that test. So let's get the best possible score. It's letting them know that their voice is not optional, it is essential to what this country is all about. So we have this petition to the government that Ms. Hubers, myself, and Mr. Ali do. It's a capstone on government. You can see a picture of Taylor. She was here earlier in the spring with Senator James and Josh Call. And if she was instrumental in helping the legislature secure funding for SUSO funds. Baby forfeiture boxes, dozens of potholes, that stop sign that's annoying on Dover Street. That's right, you can thank a Chi High student for that. The four-way intersection over here, Wheaton and Coleman, used to be two-way. It was a madhouse, now it's four-way. That was a Chi High student who helped make that possible. And sitting behind me is, well, the next round. This is gonna be the next round that's gonna go out. And your voice has to be out there, it's essential. And we'll kind of see where it goes from there. And I know this is near and dear to Mr. Zenner's heart, but we were this close from a student making Colby cheese the official state cheese. This close. But more than that too, it's also real world perspectives and experiences. We do have the lawmakers come in from both parties. We did have a group of students that were interested in starting a Turning Point USA chapter that's off and running before school. There was no fanfare or ridicule in the community. We just handled it professionally. It was wonderful. We have American Club. We have mock Supreme Court Club, where we teach students how to debate effectively. And we also have wonderful field trips where Ms. Sikora takes students down to the courthouse and sees real life practice unfolding.
Good. So the next one we'll talk about is problem solving, and obviously in any class, I think, or any department is going to help facilitate our students to become better problem solvers. But again, in social studies, whether it's simulations, discussions, we do this a lot. We have an activity in U.S. history where students become part of or help find a solution to the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't know how many students I've had over the years who come to talk to me about mock Congress in Mr. Kinville's class and who's going to be president and vice president. Ethical dilemmas in psychology and criminal justice with Mrs. Welly and Ms. Sikora. All of these things, we're trying to teach students to think critically and solve problems that are difficult to solve. And the great thing is we can use history and show them these were the results and then compare it to what they've done in class. Beyond the classroom, Mr. Kinville mentioned the mock Supreme Court club that Ms. Hubers has. She just started that this year. I can't say enough about, I know he's standing right next to me, but Mr. Kinville and the number of people that he's affected, both with American Club Flags for the Fallen, opportunities that he's provided students with those. Psychology Club with Mrs. Welly, Mr. Dunkel and myself do a stock market challenge each quarter where we kind of introduce the students to stocks and occasionally crypto, Mr. Zenner. And it just opens students' eyes like, oh, this is actually something I can do. And so all of the clubs, I think, encourage people to continue learning about the stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next one is effective communicator. You know, I don't know how many students have come up to us during major events, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, what's happening in Minneapolis. They come to our department. They probably go to others too, but they really come to our department because there's a level of trust and there's a level of professionalism, I think, that they can get from us. And I don't know how many times Josiah has come in to just talk about life. Right, Josiah? Yeah. And, but to teach the kids how to be effective communicators, to take what they know and to put it in practice. And for example, we have our AP teachers with their DBQs, document-based questions. People like Lisa Hobley, who teaches AP Human Geography, does a wonderful job of getting freshmen to really put their thoughts into writing. We also have Ms. Bierman and the U.S. History team where they are crunching some very significantly challenging primary documents. You know, when you have to read a speech from Eisenhower and try to make heads or tails of it and apply that, that's not something that comes easy to a teenager nowadays. And within that, you also want to create an environment of respect and collaboration. You can see a picture of State Senator James. We have both parties that come in. The kids are used to that. They're used to seeing these people. But also the idea that you can take what you learn and you can purposefully adapt it to other things in the world. And you can see a picture of some students who have learned about the Vietnam War, and now they have an opportunity to go make a rubbing of a family member who, oh, by the way, they met because they came to the school to hand them their shirts with the name of their loved one on the back of the shirt that they wore at the wall. And so it's taking all of that. It doesn't happen by accident. It's all purposeful, it's planned, and it's just something we take a lot of pride in.
So the next one that we're talking about is the resilient thinker. And this is proving to be challenging, I think, in the world of, I have a question, I can go to Google, I can use my phone, and I can figure out the answer in 2 minutes. As teachers, that can be somewhat overwhelming once in a while because our students are not only fact-checking themselves, they're fact-checking us in class. And I think sometimes too much reliance on that hinders their ability to be resilient thinkers. So what we do is we try and make our classes intentionally challenging. We want them to struggle. We want them to face problems that they don't know the answer to. We want them, and this sounds crazy, but to fail, but then try again. And creating that idea of curiosity and resiliency and perseverance when things are not easy is something that I think our department does a really nice job with. And the idea of persevering and resilience and everything else when they enter into the workforce, you know, trying to climb the ladder, whatever ladder that is, there's going to be difficulties, and not quitting and trying again or trying a new strategy. These are things that we want them to do in our classes, to learn from their mistakes, reflect, and then make changes so they can be better in the future.
And when it comes to fostering the continuous learner, like I said, we have two of our best students going into areas that would constitute social studies. But one of the neat things is that the people in our department, we don't just teach our subjects, we live it. So Virginia Welly is going to be off grading AP tests, and she's going to be off with other professionals expanding upon her craft. And Lisa Hobley is going to be going to a conference to expand on her craft. I've got a YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hidden Chippewa Valley.
I won that bet, by the way. I knew he was gonna, yeah.
Well, my students put me up to that. They're like, you're going to mention your YouTube channel.
Sure they did.
It's interesting how all of a sudden you have a YouTube channel and the kids are like, well, how do you do that? Well, next thing you know, I'm at a prime time and I got 6 kids walking in. I'm showing them how to do KindMaster and get a YouTube channel started. But it's that aspect of you can't hide in social studies. You can't hide. If you're the apathetic kid, if you're the kid that, and you're nodding, you can't hide because we're authentic. Like it's part of our DNA. So we're gonna bring you along. If we have to drag you, we'll drag you. But most importantly, we try to make connections with each of those students so that way they can see that, you know what, history is also music history. So you're listening to Led Zeppelin, let's talk about music history. And it's those connections, and Donna and Adam are always giving us compliments for our connections with the students. Mr. Dunkel, I don't know how many history costumes this guy has, but he's constantly dressing up as different historical figures. I showed Jason, he almost fell over laughing today, but Dunkel bought me a George Washington French and Indian War uniform tracksuit. And the first thing Jason said was, you're wearing that at school, right? I said, of course. But that's us. The kids know that. Sometimes they dress up as George Washington to get our attention. A lot of Trump impressions floating around the school. We just have a lot of fun. But the goal is to get them to think about not just what they learn in the classroom, but how they can apply that, whether it's in the future or otherwise. It's about sparking curiosity. It's about celebrating this great country's birthday. It's about seeking the experience with taking what you learn with psychology and becoming a youth mental wellness champion. And by the way, I just saw Olivia at Quick Trip on the way over. And she's like, where are you going all dressed up? And I said, well, I'm going to talk about you.
Nice.
And she goes, no. I said, yes. And also growth and reflection. You know, you can see a picture of somebody who joined the military, David, past student, who when we went to Normandy Beach and went to the cemetery, it was a very personal experience for him. And these are the types of things that go with us in perpetuity. And everybody loves history at some point. It just may not hit until later in life. But hopefully we've given them the skill set to embrace it when that time comes.
That was pretty good. Good work. So we were going through the slides and John's like, I don't care which slide I do, I just don't want this one. So of course he gives me the econ one. And then when we were told we have, or the econ guy, the number slide, when we were told we had 10 minutes, I saw this slide and I could talk about the achievements of our students for an hour. But these are just some of the highlights. Like as we were putting this together, we knew we couldn't include everything, and I feel bad for not mentioning every teacher individually, but I know some of these are a little hard to see, so I'll just hit on some of the key ones. But what this slide highlights is the academic rigor of our department, our AP scores, our transcripted course numbers. So typically in a given year, we have 200 plus students in our department alone that are taking AP classes. Human geography is usually around 100 students. AP Psych is always 75 to 100 students. And the other AP classes are growing every single year. An amazing statistic, over the last 5 years, our AP pass rate is 73%. The national average is 68%. So we've exceeded that. I cannot not talk about Miss Welly. There's a reason why Miss Welly is the National AP Teacher of the Year, or was a few years ago. She had 63 students in AP Psych last year, and they had holy cow, I don't know what I just did. Sorry. They had a 100% pass rate. 63 students took the test, 63 passed. Our US history students were over 90%. Mr. Kinville, he never talks about this, or he just kind of assumes this. But his students have a 100% pass rate on the civics exam every single year. And he just kind of, well, that's what we do in my class, but to me, it's a big deal. And one of the nice things for us is students take our classes. As all of you, I'm sure know, it's 3.5 credits are required. We looked up the numbers, and it's right around 50% of all the students at Chi-High, when they graduate, they have 4 or more social studies classes. So they're not just taking the minimum. Half or a little bit more than half are taking more than are needed. Well, at the same time, I know students' mental health is super important, like it's talked about a lot, and it should be. The students aren't alone when they're going through the AP classes and they're taking the difficult classes. We're there to help, and those teachers are very aware of the pressures that our students are feeling today when it comes to getting into the right college or getting a scholarship or passing an AP test. We care about our students, we care about their success, but we want them to always be healthy and happy overall.
And kind of our two-part thank you slide. This was our department wall that we created at the high school. And we acknowledge our students of the quarter. We also acknowledge our Attitude and Effort Award recipients. And we also have a kind of a third row just for different things. So I have the students that got 100% and 1 wrong on the citizenship exam. But the kids love this. They love the wall, and we're constantly cycling things in and out to get a lot of kids recognized. And if you flip to the next slide, we have a lot of fun, and it's because of you folks. Let's not kid ourselves. We have a lot of people to thank, and I know we've already gone over our 10 minutes, but I don't see a hook, so I'm gonna keep going. First of all, the board, Mr. Holmes, who's not here, I know he's a history teacher, but the board, you folks do a wonderful job. You're funding things that we can offer, a military history course that a lot of schools don't have, Wisconsin history that oftentimes gets overlooked for all those kids who want to live here and stay here and have a lot of pride in the community and pay the next generation of taxes. So you folks make that possible. Most importantly, or not most importantly, equally importantly, the special education staff that we work with. Obviously, the district, we're looking at inclusion and what we can do better. We have a phenomenal working relationship with the special ed department. Raisler, Grunseth, Sam, Fenner, Atkinson, these folks are family, and they love working with us. We have a wonderful relationship. To our administrative team, Donna, I call her boss, Adam, our observing principal, Dave, Joe, they bring heart to a building that doesn't have to have it. And please know that. They have our backs. And that is, we've been on interviews, that is not necessarily a common thing. People are looking for what we have at the high school. And so, I'm gonna get teary-eyed here, but I think the world of these folks. Also, Mr. Knowlton, love this man. He lets us have the scrap bin as a community service so that we can also raise a few funds for our Flags of the Fallen trip. I think I'm missing some, oh, I am. Here it is. The curriculum and instruction staff has been nothing short of spectacular. Katie has been an absolute pleasure to work with since she has gotten this position. The transparency, the openness, just the conversations, you always have a smile, which makes us feel really good. Amanda and Marlena are great to work with. We just have a wonderful relationship. So we've taken enough of your time, unless you have questions, but thank you to all of you.
Board members have questions?
I guess I have a comment. As the oldest guy on here, generations, because my kids graduated with you guys, and I'm just thankful that the passion of the alumni carries on, and I look forward to how it's going to impact this next generation coming forward. So thank you for your whole department for what you do.
Thank you.
It is important to us old people too. Thank you.
And they're all watching,
Yeah.
so you know.
Not my people, they went to bed at 8 o'clock.
Oh, one more thing. You see that photo up there? No. That's Mr. Bob and I on the last Flags to the Fallen trip. The students wanted us to sing karaoke on a duck boat on the Charles River in Boston. And so that's us belting away to Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus.
I don't know if I'd call it singing.
Oh, you're smiling, Mr. Bob.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You can save a stamp if any of those envelopes are to us.
There's one. There's one. I'll leave it with you folks.
All right, thank you. All right. Next, this will be of something interesting, maybe to keep you guys here as well. We go to our focus on results, and we start with 6.01, our 2-1D academic performance, social studies. Mr. Trowbridge, do you want to do your part from right there, or do you want to come here?
I can do it from right here.
Okay. Let me get what I need here. All right, members of the board have received the CEO's monitoring report on our 2.1D academic performance in social studies. It is now the board's responsibility to consider the report as evidence of reasonable organizational progress in this area. Mr. Trowbridge.
Director of Teaching and Learning, Ms. Katie Koppenbarger, has developed this monitoring report for our review. At this time, I will ask Ms. Koppenbarger to provide an overview of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge, and members of the school board, community. I'm pleased to present the R21B Academic Achievement Results Report for Social Studies. The target indicators for this report to determine reasonable progress include increasing student proficiency as measured by the Wisconsin Forward Exam and maintaining an 80% or higher proficiency rate on priority standards as measured by our local standards assessments. I will be highlighting the data related to these indicators as evidence to support my recommendation that you accept this report as demonstrating reasonable progress. So the first indicator, based on how well students perform on the Wisconsin Social Studies exam, which is taken every spring by students in 4th, 8th, and 10th grade. We look at the big picture. When we look at the big picture, we define reasonable progress as a twofold achievement of increasing the percentage of students scoring at the proficient or advanced range, while simultaneously reducing the percentage of those scoring below proficient. I'm happy to report that we have met this mark. Our overall proficiency on the state exam rose from 59.4% to 61.1%. Perhaps more importantly, this growth was not limited to a single pocket of students in the district. The data indicates that all of our high-risk demographic groups also saw improved proficiency rates. I'd also like to highlight our trend to perform better than the state average in the area of social studies. I would like to highlight that not only shows that we are exceeding the state average in all strand areas of behavioral sciences, economics, political science, and citizenship, history, and geography for all grade levels. Our second indicator is based on local standards-based assessments, and our target for reasonable progress for this indicator is to maintain at least 80% proficiency. I'm proud to share that we have exceeded this benchmark with an overall proficiency rate of 87%. So these results are not accidental, and in light of the wonderful report that Mr. Kinville and Mr. Bob presented, they're driven by our teacher leaders and reflect strong partnerships with our social studies department leaders, as well as strong partnerships with other teachers and support staff who help our students learn each and every day. Our special education teachers, our support staff, our administrators, instructional coaches, everybody working together to achieve these results. And our commitment to continuous improvement includes collaborative data analysis with a focus on alignment to priority standards, as well as reviewing course sequences, updating assessments, and finding new ways to maximize learning opportunities within our local community. The report leans heavily on data, and it's great to see the hard work of our teachers and our students yielding scores to be proud of. But I want to close my presentation by acknowledging the human side of these statistics. Social studies is about more than just a test score. It's about rich, meaningful experiences. whether it's through field trips, starting all the way down at the elementary level. I have to mention the past here that we do. Guest speakers, rich literature that students are exposed to, both fiction and nonfiction, that give them context and human understanding of the experience and the development of their thought processes. Student organizations, and our students are engaging with history, civics, and social studies in very general but tangible ways. Our success is a testament to the teachers who prioritize relevance and engagement by aligning instruction to state statutes and standards while integrating our unique local community perspectives. We are facilitating high levels of learning that stay with our students long after they leave the classroom. And tonight, you got to see a highlight of those experiences and the great things happening at the high school, all built upon the work that our teachers are doing from the kindergarten level all the way through the middle school and to the high school. So based on the evidence of growth in state testing and the achievement of our local proficiency target, as well as the other information you've been presented with, I recommend the board accepts this report as demonstrating reasonable progress.
At this time, I'll ask for the board's acceptance of the monitoring report.
Right. Board members, any questions regarding the report itself before we decide whether to accept this as our own? By the way, thank you all for sticking around. I don't think I have ever seen a report done with so many of the people here that are actually involved in it. You know, it makes sense given what you do and how involved you are in teaching kids about governance and everything. But just to see how this all goes into our reports and how it's monitored, I think that's pretty impressive. But board members, have any questions about accepting this report? Okay, anybody would like to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the monitoring report, OE,
So, our 2.1.
oh, I'm sorry, WIRE 2.1. Academic performance, social studies, and
Motion by McEwan, is there a second? Second. Second by Martineau, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This is now our report. Our 2.1D is now our report to discuss further. Board members have any questions before we decide using our results policy motion language, whether to find that the district has made reasonable progress or has not made reasonable progress?
I just have one question, Katie. So I look at the fourth grade and percentage-wise, it seems to go down. So recognizing that, is there anything you do with as they move to the fifth grade, or how do you try to recognize that percent fall and try to compensate for it going forward?
So just real looking at what we're doing with our standards, making sure that we're covering things that we need to. The student group definitely that follows, they were something that it's not tested every year. So it's a little bit harder with those gaps. In addition, the standards include so many things that what they test each year shifts a little bit. So they may have 4 questions, and I looked at this data analysis with some of our academic chairs too to understand, like our geography one looked like it had, I think, I'd have to go back, but some of the strands go down, but they asked fewer questions, so it was based on 1 question. And another strand, went up and they had asked more questions that year on that. So some of it is within that. So I think it's also important to look at our other learning, but definitely something to attend to because we want all of them to continue.
Thank you.
All right, board members, any other questions? Otherwise, if somebody would like to make a motion using our results policy motion language.
I move that the district has made reasonable progress on R2-1.
Motion by Martineau, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Fear, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just for the record, our 2.1D, correct? Okay. Our 2.1D is found to be made reasonable progress by the board. Thank you for your presentation. All right. You don't necessarily have to stick around for the next one. It doesn't involve you guys as much.
But you're welcome to. if
You're
you
welcome to. Do we need to review the board's policy in terms of our 2.1D social studies potential indicator revisions? Do you have any suggestions for us? Any questions about the indicators?
I think the interpretation of it is something that I think we could continue to evolve with, and I would like to engage with our leaders in each of those academic areas to talk about that. So I think that's the portion of it that I think it's still important for us as far as this report to be looking at the achievement, but are there other things that we think would be a good indicator that we could bring to the board? So at this time, I'd just like to say it's something that I'm asking that I think we need to consider as well, but I'm not prepared to give you a specific thing right now.
Do board members have any questions or suggested revisions at this time?
Just restarted itself again.
Again, yeah, we're
So
having some
Mr.
problems.
Olson will help me as we go here.
Okay, but you're still able to take the notes?
So I can look over here.
All right. Okay, then we'll move on then to, and thank you, Ms. Koppenberger. We'll move on to 7.01, which is OE9, communicating with the board. Members of the board have received the CEO's monitoring report on OE9, communicating with the board. It is now the board's responsibility to consider the report as evidence of compliance in this area. Temporary sitting-in superintendent, Mr. Trowbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Check. I'm pleased to present the January 2026 OE9 monitoring report on communicating with the board and certify full compliance across all 12 indicators on behalf of Mr. Holmes this evening. This year's report reflects several refinements the board made to policy language, including clearer expectations around communicating proposed initiatives and their associated cost, providing sufficient information from varied viewpoints, and treating all board members impartially. We're confident our established practices meet these refined standards. Throughout this past year, we've maintained consistent communication through monthly board consideration documents, real-time updates on urgent matters, and timely reporting on major initiatives. Notable items communicated this year include our continued Act 20 implementation, with the functional phonics edition, the new personal finance, graduation requirement, wit and wisdom updates, compensation studies, and ongoing EBRC updates regarding our elementary attendance boundaries. Our financial reporting remains strong. The annual audit confirmed nothing significant occurred without board knowledge, and you voted both OE6 and OE7 in full compliance in October and December. As this represents Mr. Holmes' final OE9 report, his commitments to improve focus on transition. We're completing comprehensive documentation of our communication protocols and board preferences for his successor. We're continuing work on enhanced crisis communication and response procedures we began last year. And we're ensuring all systems, board docs, board considerations, notification protocols, are thoroughly documented for incoming leadership. On behalf of Mr. Holmes, he would like to thank the board for their partnership in maintaining strong governance communication throughout his tenure. I'm happy to answer any questions and respectfully request the board's acceptance of the report for further consideration.
Thank you. Board members have any questions before we decide whether to accept this report as our own? Hearing no questions, would anybody like to make a motion to accept OE9, communicating with the board, the report as our own, to discuss further?
Motion to accept OE9 as presented.
Motion by Olson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Martineau. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. OE9, communicating with the board, is now our report to further discuss. Board members have any questions before making a decision using our occupational or operational expectation motion language? no questions. If any board member would like to make a motion,
The district is in compliance with monitoring report OU9 communicating with the board.
motion by Fear. Is there a second? Second by McElwain. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The board finds the district in compliance with OE9 communicating with the board. Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge.
Thank you.
All right, next is the board's consent agenda. Would any board member request the removal of the consent agenda, any separate items for separate consideration? Oh, yes, we do. I gotta get used to that. Okay. 7.02 is review of board policy OE9, communicating with the board and discussion of potential indicator revisions. Board members have any suggested revisions or questions about any of the indicators? All right, Mr. Trowbridge, do you have any suggestions at
We
this
have
time?
not prepared any suggested changes to this report. It is one that has evolved over time, but really, I think it's a pretty solid reflection of policy and procedural changes that have occurred in the last year.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. And with that, we will move along then to the board's consent agenda. Would any board member like to make a motion to remove for separate consideration any portions of our consent agenda? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the board's consent agenda as presented. Motion by McElwain, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Martineau. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The board's consent agenda is approved as presented. Next is the superintendent's consent agenda. Would any board member request that any item of the superintendent's consent agenda be removed for separate consideration? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
So move.
Motion by Olson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Martineau. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The superintendent's consent agenda is approved as presented. Under matters reserved for the board, we don't have any items removed from the board's consent agenda. We don't have any items removed from the superintendent's consent agenda. So 10.03 is a resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $40 million in general obligation refunding bonds. A little bit more of an explanation is probably coming from Mr. Trowbridge.
Yes, thank you. After the successful passage of the referendum in 2018, we issued two portions of debt. Some of those debt issuance had a callable feature, meaning at some point in time we could discuss the possibility of refinancing them. We've been eyeballing this for probably about the last 18 months, just looking for the right time and opportunity to do this. Tonight we have Brian Brewer from Baird and Eric Cass from PMA. Both their teams were part of the debt issuance, and they're gonna give us a structure here tonight to consider action moving forward.
Thank you, Chad. Good evening. So we are here to present good news, to add to the good news at the end that we discussed back in 2020. This is related to the 2018 referendum authority that the community authorized you to proceed with for $65 million. And we implemented that in two phases, in 2018 and then again in 2020. And then at that time, we put in an option for the board to refinance should rates be lower than what they were at the time. And so to put that in perspective, this is probably easier on your screens than it is up here, but this chart is a long-term movement of municipal bond rates. So the bottom chart is a 30-year view. And the upper right is the past year. And so as Chad mentioned, as we got closer and closer to the redemption date, we were monitoring, old rates versus new rates. Is there enough to refinance? Very similar to your, personal finance, right? Home mortgages, car loans, similar. Does this have a, it doesn't show up. So you'll see, like in 2018, it was just before that, the lowest point on this chart. Rates were favorable if you look backward in the previous 2 decades. But had we known, had we known COVID was going to happen, we should have delayed and then locked in the rest in 2020. So the reason we phased it was in case, you didn't need all of the financing right away. Yeah, we knew, given the course of time, things will change. And so what happened was you locked in the first phase, the first 55 million in 2018. And then, when COVID hit in 2020, that was where it was actually literally 2 months after the shutdown and all of that. And we were discussing, will there be a market to go sell that final 10 million? But in the end, that final 10 million got finalized at extremely low rates. So tonight we're talking about the first financing, the 2018. So rates have moved back higher coming out of the pandemic and peaked basically in April of this year. And so prior to essentially, looking in that upper right corner, August, let's call it, of 25 is when the Federal Reserve rate started to decline, which then moved your borrowing rates lower on the short end of the repayment period. And that is when the savings started to increase, replacing the old with the new. That has continued into the start of 2026, and actually we're seeing kind of the lowest rates in that 18-month time period that we've been monitoring this. And so that's what we're bringing to you for discussion and then potential action to position the district to access the marketplace to lock in new rates to replace the old. So Eric will.
Yeah, so as Brian talked about, in 2018, $55 million was issued out of the full $65 million. So when you think about that, and we'll show the detail in the next slide, each year a principal amount is repaid to investors. And each of those principal payments has a different interest rate, or what we call a coupon. And those for that issuance, for what we're talking about, range from 3 to 5%. And when that was issued, as Brian alluded to, a call feature was put in that said, hey, investors, in March 1st of 2026, at our discretion, we have the ability to either give you all your money back if we have enough cash available. We know that's not the situation. But more importantly for the discussion this evening, if we can find other investors to loan us the same amount of money that we owe you, we're going to go to them and give you your money back. And so that's really what we're talking about. And the window that we're looking at is 2027 through 2038. There's a couple of maturities that don't necessarily work today, and Brian will talk about that a little bit. But if you go back to the other slide, I just want to make one correlation. So if you look at the upper right, that top blue line, as Brian alluded to, is the 20-year borrowing rate. And I know this is up today, but I think it's a good example. What we're talking about refunding is only 12 years of a 20-year issuance. So that spread between that blue line and then the purple line below it, which is the 10-year average, there's opportunity there in the market as we're shortening the amortization to take advantage of those lower interest rates on that refinancing. So that's a good example, I think, of how we're able to accomplish some of the outcomes that we're looking at. If you go back. Nope, sorry, to the other one.
This one?
Yep. So at this point, and again, this is evolving a little bit, Brian will talk about a couple of the maturities, is we're targeting roughly 23 million out of the 39 million that is callable at this point. Because again, some of those 3% coupons I alluded to don't necessarily create savings. And of course, we don't want to refinance something and cost the district more money. The intention with that, we would close on March 2nd, and that's an important date because that call feature happens on March 1st. So we want to get as close to that as possible so we don't have any accrued interest. We would issue these non-callable. As we talked about, there is a second issuance with a future call date. So there still is opportunity to repay more debt in the future more quickly or lower interest exposure on the remaining debt issuance. We did confirm the S&P rating at A+, which was a good outcome. It was a good rating call. Chad did an excellent job along with Mr. Holmes in explaining all of the good things going on in the district. And then I'm going to steal a little bit of Brian's thunder. So conservatively, we believe, and Brian will talk about some of the moving pieces, that this would create roughly $1.2 million of taxpayer savings. When I say taxpayer savings, I always have to say the caveat, this does not go back to the classroom because this was approved by referendum and you get the authority to levy the repayment outside of revenue limits. It unfortunately cannot go back to the classroom, but it is real tax relief to lower the annual principal and interest levy associated with the debt repayment.
So this one's gonna be really hard on the screen, so hopefully you have it up there as well. So what this page details is the eligible maturities, which is the far left yellow highlighted column, from 2027 to 2038. And you'll see the interest rates associated with each of those years. So some of them, one of them has a 5, many of them have 4s, and then some of them have a 350 and a 3. So we are, as Eric mentioned, we are, selecting specific maturities that generate positive savings and add to the reduction in interest costs to help you reduce the debt levy in future years. So as you work your way to the right, and you see the kind of the asterisk column, the yellow column just to the right of that shows which maturities we're targeting right now and which maturities we're leaving alone. This can change. So the reason you're considering a parameter resolution is that ultimately what gets finally selected will be based on what is the market and what are the rates at the time that we're accessing the market. So we may end up picking up 2037 and 2038. Probably will not be able to pick up 2030 and 31 because those are 3%. So those are the lowest coupons of the maturity stream. But let's assume that right now it's as illustrated here. You're replacing the old 4s and 5s with the new blended average in the low 3s. And that generates the new schedule in the middle right of the page, ultimately arriving at the far right columns, which show the annual reduction in the debt levy in each of those years. So in year 1, 2027, we're keeping it flat, but then each of the years thereafter, it's approximately 130-ish thousand of interest cost reduction and payment. So your levy will go down by about 130,000 in each of those years. And then that subtotals to the lower right corner, which is the figure that Eric mentioned, the approximately 1.2 million of future reduction in tax levy. In the lower left corner of this page, we run a sensitivity table just to show, because rates will continue to change. After tonight, rates could go up tomorrow. The Federal Reserve meets tomorrow. So there may be statements and market reaction to that'll either make it go up or go down. So we give a sensitivity table as to, for each 0.1%, 0.1%, how much will that move the savings up or down? And so it's roughly 120,000 for every 0.1. So it's relatively sensitive. And so, that's why, we wanted to design it as a parameter resolution where you're delegating, a not to exceed borrowing amount, a not to exceed repayment term, a not to exceed interest rate, and then ultimately delegating that final sign-off authority to Chad to work with Eric and I, looking at the market to select which maturities are optimal given the market when we go talk to investors. I guess one final point I would add here, and this kind of goes back to that original plan in 2018. As you recall, the district, in its referendum communication materials, you modeled example illustrations and repayment schedules. We used a conservative interest rate in that planning in case rates went up from the time you got approval to the time we were able to lock it in. We used conservative growth, conservative state aid, so all of the ways that we try to manage what you were communicated versus what you finished. And as a reminder, that plan ended about 8.4, a little bit less than $8.4 million lower in interest cost than what you had used in the conservative communications prior to the referendum. So this additional $1.2 million would put that total interest cost avoidance or reduction from what you were communicating to $9.6 million, which is, significant, relative to a project size of 65 million. So it's, puts in perspective, what this additional savings could do. So this is a tentative timeline. Ongoing, we've been doing paperwork to get the credit rating, get bond insurance lined up, quotes, the legal paperwork with Quarles and Brady, drafting the resolution that you have for action tonight. So tonight is the discussion and action to set the parameters and delegate to Chad. If the market is favorable, we would proceed with locking in either in the next week or two. We have it set up to where if the market is favorable, we could lock in as early as Thursday. But if it's not favorable coming out of the Federal Reserve Board meeting tomorrow, we can keep monitoring it day by day thereafter. On the day that we are able to get into the market and lock it in, Chad would sign what's called an approving certificate that comes from Quarles and Brady, and it basically certifies that each of the parameters set in the resolution were met or exceeded. Once all of that is finalized, we would schedule the closing, as Eric mentioned, for March 2nd for the payoff. So that would be the date that the district receives funds to then turn around and pay off the prior bondholders at from the 2018 issue. So with that, any questions on the process or the strategy behind monitor?
I have a few questions. So we have 12 years remaining on this loan.
Yep.
And is this something that, are we locking this in for the final 12 years, or this will be something that you're going to continue to monitor and you will come back at us if it changes even more?
If you go back. So I think the best way to think about it, is the ones with asterisks, those would be locked in until they're repaid. If we do not touch them, like let's say Brian talked about 2037, 38, depending upon where the market is, if they create enough savings based on the parameter. Let's say that they don't, those would still be available for future refunding. But to answer your question more pointedly, any ones that we refund today would not be callable again. They'd be set until.
Another thing is, let's assume that maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, Chad's going to retire. So then would you be working with the other, with the next person with that same information then?
Correct.
Just a continuous program?
Yep. And again, as I alluded to earlier, there's still 10 million that's sitting out there in 2039 and 2040. You can kind of see it up there in the left of the asterisks on that long line that we would be monitoring, just like we have, and whether it's Chad or a replacement for Chad. I know he's irreplaceable, but whoever that individual is in that seat, absolutely.
5 to 10 years, yeah. Is there any downside?
Maybe 15, you never know.
Is there any
Go
downside?
12, then we don't have to worry about it.
It's a no-brainer, or is there any downside to this, and is there any risk? I mean, it just sounds like it's a no-brainer, correct?
It feels like a no-brainer, and Brian can jump in here too, but the question is, we don't time the market. We create opportunity, and like Chad alluded to, we've been monitoring this for 18 months. We can't sit in here and say that, a year from now, interest rates aren't gonna be much lower and create more savings. But again, every year you wait, you're losing a maturity to create savings around, and you're locking yourself in at a higher payment,
So the only risk is if it goes from 3-point to 2-point, then that's
Yeah.
the whole point, but
Right.
3-point is pretty darn good.
we feel, we wouldn't be here this evening, and Chad wouldn't allow us to be here this evening if we didn't feel good about this as a solution.
Thank you.
That leads me to my next question. I mean, obviously, when you do a home refinance, you're considering the cost. You haven't talked to us about the cost of that yet and comparing it to your lost ability to do that next year if we decide to wait for it to go lower. So we see the projected savings if we act now. What is the cost to us right now? I mean, you guys aren't doing this for free, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And these savings are net of those costs. Those are already backed out of the savings.
So where do we see that? What, is that like just a percentage of the bond issuance?
Yeah. And so I can try to add it up as a percentage, but so there's a fee for underwriting. So we sell the bonds to the investors, going back and forth and having them compete for the bonds that morning. Eric's team, as the municipal advisor, they're monitoring on behalf of the district that we are, at market rates, covering the market fully to generate as much competition for the sale of those bonds. Corals is the legal paperwork. Credit rating agency is Standard & Poor's. Fiscal agent is, assist with the payment to the investors. Like, once we sell it to them, they're dispersed all over the country. So there's a process to pay via clearinghouse to those investors. Bond insurance is Build America Mutual Bond Insurance. We got that quote today. They were the lowest of the insurance providers out there. Did I miss any? Yeah. So all of that is probably adds up to about 1.25, one point.
Yeah, probably closer to 1.
Yeah, as a percentage of the total. So at closing, part of the 23,195,000, some of those funds go to pay those costs and then are repaid at the 3-ish%. And that's what's in that principal and interest payback over time. So that net savings of about $1.2 million includes the process of paying. So the all-in costs, that's why we use what's called the AIC that's up there, which is similar to your bank rate for a mortgage. Like the rate they give you is the all-inclusive of their cost to give the loan. It's built into that rate.
So what does that look like? I mean, in terms of, you say potential gross savings 1.1, and I'm just trying to get an idea to calculate again, because it reduces our odds of doing anything next year, right? Because if we've done it this year with those costs are essentially going to be the same if we do it again next year. So
You're taking, right, by doing it this year, you're taking your time to lock in from the old rates to the new rates. So you're taking it from what was mid 3s to what is, high 2s, mid to high 2s. So you're reducing your cost by like a percentage point, now. So it won't be, there isn't, after you do the asterisk to what Eric was saying earlier, after you've locked that in, there isn't another refinance on this segment of bonds.
Right.
What is left to be refinanced are the maturities that we are not refinancing this time. So 28, 9,
As well as 39.
37, 38, and then
39 and 40.
39 and 40 on the 2020 borrowing.
So it's a little different than a home loan in that you don't have unlimited repayments.
Correct, yes.
Because in order to get, quality tax exempt rates, investors want security that they're going to be getting the interest associated with it. And so that's part of this process is once we do refund it, we would have a choice to put in a call feature, which is roughly 8 to 10 years. But the penalty, when we look at and track it in the market, it's cost prohibitive to have a couple of years of opportunity in the future. So that's why, as we've talked about, we're recommending doing this non-callable, locking in those rates, and then lowering your annual levy by about $130,000, or hopefully more once we actually price it.
It'd be nice to have a crystal ball.
Yes.
To know what the next 10 years are gonna look like.
Interestingly, you can go on Robinhood and bet on just about everything now.
Yeah.
And you can bet on whether the interest rate's going up. Those people know, because, when it says where there's 90% of the people are betting on interest rates going a certain way, they tend to go that way.
Yeah, fair.
Are you expecting any change from the Fed?
So tomorrow, no. There's potential for another quarter point later in the summer. And I say potential because there's a lot of other things that are going on in the world right now that, the 3 that happened in the summer to fall of last year were pretty well verbalized earlier in the year. They wanted to see data points, but before they actually took action that they ended up taking. At one point in December, there was a discussion of maybe 2 cuts throughout 26. But that got cut back because of, again, there's other things beyond just the Federal Reserve rate that affects what investors are willing to lend at. Because these investors are locking in for those up to 12 years, in today, not knowing what inflation's gonna be. And some of the stuff we're talking about can affect the direction of inflation. In particular, lowering the short end of the yield curve, that is a stimulus to the economy, which then makes it, the rate of goods increase. Tariffs ended up being negative for the long-term market because it's also raising the cost of goods. There's an argument of who's paying for it, but it still means the things are more expensive. So right now, tomorrow, the expectation is no change. The messaging will matter as to whether we go on Thursday or not. Will be, what do they say when they don't cut rates? And then whether later in the year, whether they cut again is based on some of the global stuff happening.
Question, aside from saving taxpayers' money, does this put us in a better position for borrowing in the future?
About the same.
Yeah.
We're reducing our debt. We have plenty of debt capacity.
So,
This doesn't, we're solidifying our S&P rating, unless we do something, or there are economic factors even with our community that cause that to change. I would expect, fairly status quo stability, I guess is the word I would use.
I'm just looking for a silver lining.
Yeah, and I mean, the way we're choosing to do the savings is just lowering it all equally based, like after next year, just lowering it all by that 130 or whatever number it ends up being. Which creates, a lower debt burden each year. You can then choose to pay it off quicker if you'd like. To Eric's point, you have other debt that you can keep paying down. If you didn't need that 130, you could keep your debt levy the same and then pay down debt faster, which puts you in a better spot. But in aggregate, as Eric mentioned, Chad did really well on that rating call. They have a 3-page list of questions that they're asking, and the things that were within the board's control and the administrative team's control all scored very, very well. They look at the local economy, countywide GDP, things that you can't control, that it is what it is, right? Your debt metrics were very low. I actually think that was an argument for being higher than an A+, because of you're very low relative to your ability to borrow is based on your property value base, which is 6.9 billion, right? So 690 million is your authority to borrow, and you have 55 outstanding. Yeah. So you're in great shape if there was ever that future need for capital.
Any additional questions?
So as Brian mentioned earlier, we did work with Coles and Brady to establish the parameters resolution. He covered the high points. It's very detailed in there. We have all reviewed that along with the Coles and Brady legal team. We just feel it gives us the adaptability to move forward in the next coming weeks and months to be able to act without having to call a special board meeting to get you here on a Monday night to make that decision. We want to do this when the time is right. If the time's not right, we won't do it.
Just one maybe hypothetical question. If we do this now, what would the percentage have to drop by for us to look back and say, we should have waited? I mean, realistically, after we take into account the fact we can only refinance the bonds once, how low would it actually have to drop if we had waited a year making our current payments? Before that, the cost benefit wasn't there. Would it have to be another point? Would it be negligible? Speculating.
I mean, it's really based on the amount savings threshold, which is what we had conversations as we've been leading up to 2026. And as I mentioned earlier, like the rates and the savings levels that we discussed with Chad have been the highest they've been as we got into 26. So some of that's supply and demand based in January. Some of that is the market kind of closes down at the end of December, so people are ready to act in the early part of the year, so that ebbs and flows. So it's really about just the realization that the original financing in 18 wasn't very high, like the rates weren't very high. You're able to, adjust lower to save another million something, which then reduces your annual payments by 100 and something thousand, right? So it's hard to, unless you say, oh no, I'm only good if it's 2 million, right? I could quantify what it takes to get to 2 million, right? I could tell you that number. But, I don't know, do you have a different answer for that?
Different for probably everyone sitting around the table, right? Should you wait to save $1? To answer your question, like if it drops, Brian said this on that little corner up there.
The sensitivity
If
table.
rates drop by 0.3%, that's gonna be probably $300,000 of savings. Everybody's gonna define what's meaningful and what you should wait for. But one last thing I wanna point out is Brian was talking about the Fed. Another thing he didn't mention, but I will, is we don't know who the Fed chair is gonna be long-term. If there's a change there, that's probably gonna indicate lower rates. But I think one of the things that I would wanna clarify is when the Fed lowers rates, it doesn't mean that what we're talking about when you're borrowing in the tax exempt market is equal to reduction. They're talking about banks borrowing overnight to each other, maybe more related to short-term mortgages and stuff like that. So these markets react ahead of those cuts and react to tariffs. They react to, are we gonna go to war over Greenland as an example? Like, I just use those as examples that those are the things that are really gonna drive markets going up or down and how they perceive that affecting our economy. And so that's a long-winded answer. It depends on what you think is worth waiting for, right? If you think $100,000 is worth waiting for, it's about 0.1% reduction in what we're projecting, right? From a 3.3 down to a 3.2. Could that happen? Of course it could, but it could also be a 3.4 a year from now. We just don't know that.
Yeah, I was just kind of.
The reality is we know where we are now.
Right.
And, if you're gonna try to time the market, you could time it just the opposite, it could go up. And then we'd all be sitting here, I wish we would have taken the deal when we had it, because now it's, savings only gonna be $50,000, whatever. So I guess that's what Chad needs to figure out.
That's why we're here.
That's why the
Mathematically
resolution has
speaking,
a
the
sliding
answer is probably about
scale to it.
1.2, but we don't know. Do you take $1 million now, or do you take a chance that it goes down? Because it could also go up and then we lose that.
Oh, I agree.
Or do you take it up?
All right, well, the recommended action is for a board member to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $40 million general obligation refunding bonds as presented. Would any board member like to make such a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Olson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Martineau. Any further discussion? Clerk roll call, please.
Steve Olson.
Aye.
Dave Martineau.
Aye.
Dennis Fear.
Aye.
Sherry Jasper. Aye. Sharon McElwain.
Aye.
Peggy McKillop. Aye. Dave Check.
Aye. Motion carries. The board has approved the resolution as presented. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge, for your presentation and also putting us in a position year after year to be able to do this.
Until you retire from the
We won't have to worry about this debt then.
12 years, that's all. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, yeah. It's not agendized though, we might have issues with open meeting.
All right, 10.04 is consideration of the senior graduation party donation. The recommended action is to do the same donation that we did in previous years, $500 to the 2026 Chi-High McDonald's senior graduation parties. Any questions or discussions, or would somebody like to make such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by McElwain, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Martineau, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. The board has approved a donation of $500 to the 2026 Chi-High McDonald's senior graduation parties. Next is 10.05, consideration of student representation representative position. The policy committee chairperson, Dennis Fear, is going to present something on that, correct?
I don't know if we are.
So,
Well, I can read the recommended action, and then you guys can proceed. The recommended action is to proceed with a junior-senior co-representative model. To have the policy committee update, policy 0141.1, student representation at board meetings at their upcoming policy committee meeting, and to open the application period from February 23rd to March 13th, advertising for both a junior and senior representative. So that's the recommended action. Now, how do we get there?
so our policy, our student representative policy 0141.1, states that, our student representative will be a senior. There was discussion against, I think amongst maybe last year's committee, of having a junior-senior representative. So in order for us to do that, we would have to change our policy. And we kind of got into a time crunch because we do have a policy committee meeting scheduled, but it's not till February. So our policy won't come for approval until March, which is a little late to get it out there for applications for our students. So our first discussion would be, do we want to consider having a junior, senior representative? And the thought around that is the junior would serve their junior and senior year. So I'd also like to hear from our current student representatives too, any thoughts that they have about that process. But I guess that's the first thing that does the board want to consider a junior, senior representative or stay with the senior?
My question would be to you guys, is could you see this as a 2-year commitment? That's my only concern, is you're asking now to commit to this, and you know what time you're putting in to it now, and now that would be a 2-year commitment with all your academics, athletics, extracurriculars and stuff like that. So that would be my only concern about that, is you're asking for quite a commitment.
I think that if you were to open it up to something like that, that you should give the option for the junior if they want to continue. So, but that they would have to get put back into that pool where it's just as even for if a senior wanted to graduate. So there's not this like line of succession that comes from the junior that they also have to go back in. So that opens up the opportunities for if there is another senior who didn't apply as a junior that wants to be a representative, that's still open for them to be able to do it.
So you'd reappoint both positions every year, really is what you're saying.
We'll just take a senior every year. I mean, might as well limit to seniors if you're gonna do 2 seniors, because if the whole purpose of this is to have a succession.
You reappointed, a junior
Right.
and a senior. So it would just be an open interview process again.
Senior, I see your,
For the senior,
I see your
yes.
point.
Yeah, but
It's
if
just gonna be
you're
two
giving the
different
junior the
people
option
regardless.
to opt out, you're not carrying any succession over, you're not carrying any knowledge over. It's the same as having 2 seniors every year.
Well, maybe not succession is not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for more kids to have an opportunity. So even if a junior just did it their junior year, they would still have a valuable insight into the school district. If they so chose to reapply for the senior position, right, they could do so. Or we could just make it just a 1-year junior and senior, and then the next year we would have a junior and senior apply again for the position. But 2 years might be a long time, but I still like the idea that we somehow need to incorporate a junior and a senior. We just have to do it in a way that doesn't burden them.
Julie, what do you think?
I like the junior and senior idea, like, definitely having 2 representatives, that like, they're helpful, they kind of give you an and I think having like a junior's perspective on like their grade and the senior for the high school would be nice. But yeah, I do agree, like, the junior then opts out, I don't know. That's kinda odd, I don't know.
Do you think it would, do you think that the quality of what students can bring to the board, because you guys bring lots of good to our board, that just the goal would always be to have a junior or senior, whether somebody continues from junior to senior year or whether it's different people? Do you think that there'd be a gain or a loss with one of those or the other?
I don't know, and maybe just thinking more, maybe it's something that you open it up to a junior and a senior, not that it has to be a junior and a senior, but that it could be a junior or a senior, or a junior and a junior, or a senior and a senior again, just to open up the pool a little bit more for those people that are interested in coming instead of limiting it to that one grade.
Good point. And plus, in part of the interview process, there's, the year that I did it, we had several great candidates, and we kind of, you know, wished we could have nominated more people because the students were really engaged in this. So I don't know. It sounds like this needs to go back to policy with some further discussion.
Do you have a response to say
I
thank
think
you?
Josiah's idea, like opening the pool up to juniors and seniors, because I know, like, it is kind of a time commitment, and I feel like junior year is kind of like a year, like, I definitely think about it as junior year, so like, having the option, I guess, but I feel like I think it, like, now thinking again, I feel like it should just be, I feel like junior year is just, so much is already going on, and that I feel like a junior couldn't commit enough time to it. Cause I feel like I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought. I don't know.
So Chloe, you're telling us that 2 years with Mr. Olson may be too much?
Donna,
That's
do you
what
have
I'm
any
getting.
thoughts, kind of, since you're here?
I think, no matter what grade level it is, like they're always, the school board reps are always welcome at our PAC meetings, monthly PAC meetings, which is a great cross-section of grades 9 through 12. So they hear everything from different grade levels and they bring that to the report. So I really value that collaboration. So that's on more viewpoints, but you are hearing a cross view of what other grade levels are thinking as well. I love that there's the partnership because of all of the elementary schools, the middle schools, you guys can divide and conquer and share some of those responsibilities, because I do think that's really a lot. It's a big load, and I think depending on your ambition, I think your course loads in senior year, you can kind of you have more elective choices, because most of your required courses are behind you. I mean, you have some, but not a heavy load. It's more, you know, you're honing in on your career pathway and you're doing your exploratories. So I think like the course load is a little heavier your junior year, because you're in the midst of APs, you're just starting it and you're kind of trying to figure out how to handle it. So and Chloe kind of alluded to that with her course load, and could she have done this position her junior year? So I think whatever you decide, you're gonna get quality feedback from students. If you have one, if you have two, if you have either grade level, but whatever you decided, I really appreciate that you guys invite the students' voice to be heard at the board meetings. It's really powerful and important.
So I think we're all in agreement that we should have two. What's the harm in saying, opening it to juniors and seniors, and then we let the interviews weed all that out. And then, I mean, I don't know if we can do this or not, but I come up with ideas like this at the county board all the time. We advise the policy committee how we want the policy to read. So, I mean, why would we have to, I mean, you guys are meeting after the meeting, but couldn't we proceed with that understanding? Without the official language, you know, we could say, I think it's this just is what we want the policy to say. Right, because we wanna You make sure understand what I'm that, trying to say? well, we have to get maybe not the exact language in the advertisement, but we have to let Right.
high school folks know
Right,
who's eligible to apply.
right.
That's really the,
What does our
we need
current
to do.
policy language say? Because how did we wind up
They're
with two to begin
seniors
with?
right now. They're just seniors right
We-
now.
How did we wind
Must
up
be a
with two?
We suggested after the interviews that that's what we do, and the board approved us being able to do that.
So that was just a one-time thing.
Yes.
We could make a motion today to at least approve the two model,
Practice and
and then we
Direct
wanna
the
open it up to
policy.
juniors and seniors?
direct the policy committee to
Yeah,
draft the policy.
Policy committee doesn't meet, until what, the second week of February, so they won't have a policy for us to engage with until the February meeting, but we could do something today in that order.
But that way you'd still be able to get the advertisement out there to
Yeah.
open it up.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's essentially what the recommended action is.
So go ahead and make the motion there. Thinking out of the box there.
So I've already read the recommended
Just
action.
got one more thing. And I'm not against a junior, but one of the nice things about what we're doing here is we're giving different kids an opportunity to be part of it. You open it up for a junior and there is a succession their senior year, you close down a position that could have been, for additional people, so.
But it's just for 1 year only.
Yeah, we're not doing success.
But could that person interview the next year for the same
They
position?
want to, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is
It
that,
would be hard for us probably to say no to someone who's been here as a junior and applies. I agree with that.
I enjoy the giving as many people the opportunity to be part of this, and that's the only factor it's not that I'm against it, but it does limit, potentially it could limit opportunities for kids.
Unless you said that if the person was there as a junior, then they wouldn't be allowed to do it as a senior.
But we don't wanna do that either, so however you wanna do it is fine.
So
Well, I think Steve's got a good point. I think maybe just two seniors.
I would recommend, and I can make this a motion, but that we remove the word both, advertising for both a junior and senior, that we just advertise to juniors and seniors at this point.
Good idea.
We can continue to study. So the motion is to proceed with the junior, senior co-representative model, to have the policy committee update policy 0141.1 student representation at board meetings at their upcoming policy committee meeting, and open the application period from February 23rd to March 13th, advertising for both positions.
Yes, and then we probably need
So I
to
think
say
it could be junior and or seniors.
Right.
to
not-
proceed with a two student co-representative model. Right.
You're the one that has to write all that down,
Well, no,
so
I do, but Angela did. Angela
What's
always
she-
covers me. So I move
motion by,
that we proceed with a two student co-representative model to have the policy committee update PO 141.1 student representative at board meetings at their upcoming policy committee meeting, and to open the application period from February 23rd through March 13th, advertising to junior and seniors for student representatives to the board.
motion by Jasper. I'll give you extra time to type that out. Not used to doing that. Got it.
Good.
Okay. Motion by Jasper, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by McElwain, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you for your presentations. Next is communicating with the board. 11.01 is budget monitoring pursuant to OE7. Mr. Trowbridge.
Thank you. You have your typical 7 reports as part of your reporting package tonight. All of those are as of January 14th of this current year, 2026. So first, if you would look at budget source summary, what this report does is list for you where revenues are at, and this is a relatively detailed list. As you know, state aid and property taxes really are the bulk of our revenues. At this point, we're expected to be under budget in some areas and over budget in some other areas. And that means different things for revenues versus expenses, but I don't have much to report at this time. We're starting to see some tax levy money filter in yesterday and today. Overall, we're expected to be slightly over in revenue at year end at this point in time. Next, if you would look at the budget object summary, again, as of January 14th, that's another fairly detailed version of the what. There are, for this time of year, it's very common to have some overages and underages. Last month, I would have told you, we're not concerned about medical, but as of the turn of the calendar year, I have to mention again, our 241 medical is again trending high due to volume of claims towards the end of the year. So that's not a surprise, but it is a new deductible year. So that does change kind of the outcome here, the trajectory for the next 6 months. Most everything else is tracking pretty well. As we look at year end, we would expect to be slightly over in expenditures at this point. Nothing too significant though. Next, if you look at a budget function report, this is summarized by program category. Again, when you see it kind of condensed, there are some overages and underages. At this point of the fiscal year overall, though, I would say it is pretty good. And again, just have to mention we'll keep a particular eye on medical. Next, we have a budget function summary. This is really just a major program category summary and a reflection of, again, some condensing of accounts here, but I would say overall, from my perspective, this looks pretty decent. You've got a couple other reports for your backup and viewing. If you want to get more granular or take a deeper dive, you see that executive revenue summary report, executive expenditure report, all part of your monthly reporting package. And then I included a school board summary by object. And remember, as you view that report, it's by fund first, and then revenues come first, expenditures come second. So again, things are tracking pretty well, other than medical. I did mention new deductible year, new calendar year, that all has an impact. There are a lot of variables within that are well outside our control. We're keeping an eye on some other things, utility costs, staffing, overtime, winter trends here, repairs, maintenance, that sort of thing. At this point though, I'll plan to provide you with an update in the summer. We do have a lot of fiscal year in front of us, but overall, things, again, look pretty good from a fiscal standpoint. So I don't have a transfer recommendation for you this evening, just providing you an update.
Board members have any particular questions for Mr. Trowbridge? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next, under 11.02, compensation study update, certified staff, Schedule C, and substitutes pursuant to OE5. Mr. Nura.
Thank you, President Check. Tonight, I get to share out what our initial cost out is for our certified staff compensation. We do have 14 staff members serving on that committee with me, ranging from 2 years in the district to over 20 years in the district. And tonight, we have 5 of those members here with us, Mr. Bob, Mr. Barrett Brothel, Ms. Coddington, and Amanda Turner, because I call her Amanda, not Miss Turner. And then Ms. King is here as well as representatives from the committee. If I miss anything, wave at me. All right, so we are at the January board meeting right on time to share this initial cost out. I want to just share a couple of things about that. So first, this initial cost out is including all of our current staff. We know that there are going to need to be reductions in our staffing, and that has been communicated to staff, but we don't know who those people will be or who will be impacted. So this initial cost out is our current staff, certified staff as is. And when we come back with an updated cost out in February, we will hope to have know who those impacted people are, make that communication, which then impacts our numbers and how we report to you in our next cost out. So we've tried over 20 different formulas to implement the process that was approved last year and to make what we were working within for our certified staff work in this new structure. So tonight's not just certified staff, but also substitutes and Schedule C, because all of those things are connected and tied together. So this is a graph of our current process, our current model for our certified staff, that's in the yellow. If you remember, it's a 3-year rotation. It was aligned with the educator effectiveness evaluation system. So what that meant for our employees was that they would not see an increase in compensation until 3 successful years. And on year 4, they would experience an increase. That increase was different from level to level. So you'll see the change of the line and how it rises or doesn't rise compared to other steps. But what we heard from the committee that came together last year about our compensation process is that annual compensation increase is desired and necessary, and that's what the board approved us to work within those frameworks. So just want to make sure that I'm talking. So the red is the new proposed line that we will be working toward moving forward. This does help us to acknowledge our years of service. It took a little bit of work because in each step of that yellow, there are like 3 years of recognized service on that step. So we had to pull those 3 years out and create a model to help us transition over to this new model where a scale as we know it does not really exist moving forward, because we've talked about an annual 2% increase for those staff members. But we needed to pull everybody apart, recognize the years of service for our district, and then make sure that they would receive the increase, the minimal increase across all of those. So the migration that we worked through was the best that we could do, trying to work within our financial parameters. And so it does provide at least a 3% increase from this year's earnings to what they will be making next year. Clearly, some people will have a higher increase than 3%, and some will have or be right above that 3%. And that's because, as you can see, our base to make us competitive is jumping from 43,000 to just over 50,000. And so that is more than a 3% increase that those people on the lower end will be experiencing. You can see the gap also. There'll be a bigger increase for those on the upper end too, and staying competitive in the middle. This does also help us to kind of get to that point of what we'll be looking for in the future, again with that set percentage increase for our staff at that 2%. So just a reminder that there's a lot that's occurred in the last 4 years before this, from when this group was last studied and looked at. A change in our process is now looking at the 61st percentile to help us determine our base and our cap, as opposed to the 51st in previous years. And then also we did some comparisons for our stipends specific to master's degrees and national boards. And in this cost out, we have increased that stipend from $2,500 to $5,000. We were on the lower end for both national boards and master's degrees recognition and stipends for our certified staff when looking at our comparables. I also mentioned that our base, using the 61st percentile with our comparables, does jump by about $7,000. And as I mentioned, substitute rate is connected to base pay. If someone's in a position for longer than 10 days, they are paid the base rate of our teaching salary as opposed to the daily rate if it's just a day-to-day subbing. And then there's Schedule C increase tied to base, which our team worked on last year and presented to you last year. So just to give you the comparables, you can see what our current base is and what our proposed base is and all of our comparables and where they are this year. These are the numbers that we were provided for this year. Some of our comparables are also in study this year for their certified staff, and we don't know where they're going to end next year. But what I can say is if all things stayed the same except for us, we still are not the highest paid base, but we are much more competitive than being the second lowest base with this new scale. When we look at the mid-salary comparables, which is really what the focus was of our last process or our last scale, was really to stay competitive in those mid-years, to keep those people here who are solid and doing great things for a kid and make them feel like they want to stay and be here for the rest of their career and make that commitment to our district. And so you can see that our mid-year salary does not increase significantly, but it stays very, very competitive and is actually still leading our comparables, which I think is important to keep those mid-year people here. We've invested a lot of time, effort, energy, and money into their development so they can be their best for our kids. And I think it's just a good investment in money. This then goes into our max salaries. It does show us as the second highest paying in our comparables. Again, with where people currently are at. I do think that a lot of conversation when we were in our old model was around really focusing on those mid-year people, and that's where we invested a lot of money, which talks then, or makes some of our people who have been here for an extended period of time, who aren't getting the same type of salary increases and bumps as those mid-year people were on our old scale, it makes them feel not valued for their longevity here. And this, I think, better recognizes the longevity to our district. And still, again, it is a significant increase from where we currently are. But we are within the realm of some of our other comparables, with Hudson and Eau Claire being the closest. And again, confident that at least 3 of these districts are also in study this year for their certified staff. So what this means overall is if nothing changed and we didn't move to a new compensation model and we just stepped everybody on our current compensation model, it would be an increase of $347,000. In our new compensation model, using the 61st percentile, it is a significant increase in investment in our people. $1,689,598 is the cost that it would be if we take out the $347,000 from that difference. That's about an 8% increase over 4 years, which ends up being about a 2% increase every year, which is what we're working toward moving forward, is a 2% increase annually for our certified staff who are performing at a proficient level with our students. I can pause there before we get into the other offshoots of Schedule C and substitute teachers, if that would be helpful.
It appears to me, and maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but the way that you have this modeled now should not create salary compression.
So
or at least reduce the impact.
3% reduces. We looked at the 2% increase from this year's salaries to everyone's salaries next year, and that was significant compression. If I go back, should I make a comment about Morgan? I think I will. If you look in the middle of that red line, you will see that it's not a straight line. We had to adjust for that compression there, and that's why there's that little hump. Because
I'm glad you did, because I mean our teachers and our staff are our most important asset, in my opinion, and you need to show them you value their longevity, in my opinion.
Yes. And the other, I'll let you keep asking questions and I'll add to that.
Well, I don't have any more. That was so far.
So Sarah, just to clarify, so this is a 4-year and it's 8% over the 4-year period? How does?
No, so we haven't studied these people in 4 years.
Okay.
And so the increase that you're seeing is about an 8% increase from 4 years ago of the cost to today,
Correct.
till next year.
How long is this intact? Is this a 3-year thing?
Yep, so then our new cycle of study is every 3 years. And then also after the end of the 3rd year, so this year's certified staff, next year's hourly, the following year is admin and DSS. But in that 3rd year, we're also charged to evaluate, has this new process that we've put into place been effective? Is it financially sustainable? So Chad will be here for at least 3 years to help make that decision, if not 12. And so I think that's important to remember, that if we were off or we need to make adjustments, part of our practice now is to review that in 3 years, once every group has been through this process of a study.
But that 8% increase is over a 3-year period. I mean, it goes into effect now, but that locks it in for the 3 years. It doesn't go up next year, it doesn't go up by another,
Next year it'll go up by 2%.
correct?
And then the following year, 2%, and then 2% is what the process has us, once we have everybody at their set salaries migrated to the red line from the yellow.
And the only thing we have to be careful of as an employer, you never want to take things away. So you make sure you have a good plan going into it that's sustainable, because the worst thing you could do is after the 3 years saying, we need a timeout to reevaluate this.
So, and we cost out this option, and the increase that would happen was not substantially different from what we currently experience. We just experienced it in a different way in a 4-year rotation as opposed to the 3-year. And now it'll be an annual increase of 2%, but then we're not talking 4 years from now an 8% increase. We're able to be a little bit more responsive.
Thank you.
So are you looking at your base rate to increase 2% each year?
We had not. We looked at keeping our base rate at 50,090 until we study again and use our comparables to set our base and to set our max.
Okay.
So we had not considered that, but we had considered how to make sure that we transition new hires in so that if they have fewer years of recognized service than people in the district, we're putting in a formula that won't let them leapfrog over anybody. And also staying with our practice that's currently in place, that we will recognize up to 15 years of service served outside of our district to place you to your compensation.
All placements, does that include private schools?
Currently, it is up to 15 years, and so there is some wiggle room there based on what the experience is.
Board members have any additional questions before we move to the next section?
So just so that you can see how Schedule C will be impacted, it's a 2% increase. We shared that with you last year. After a year of service in that position, it would be a 2% increase. Those are very low stipends, relatively speaking, to the teacher salaries. And then we do have caps to ensure that a 7th grade basketball coach who does it for their entire teaching career and 30 years in, that they don't get the 2% that supersedes the varsity coach. There are caps there as well. And we are meeting again with the Schedule C committee, who's able to come back together just to put our eyes back on our comparables and make sure that we are still in the ballpark with our comparables based on the work we did last year. Substitute teaching, there's an asterisk there because you know that I like asterisks. And that's because it's a 4-year average. So this number is based on the last 4 years of our cost for substitute teachers. I would say that Chad and my number looks a little bit different just because we costed it out or looked at it differently. This is probably on the higher end based on the averages. And again, that's really only going to come into impact when somebody's in a position for more than in the same position for more than 10 days. That's when we start to give them the base salary daily rate.
It'd be like your super subs who just show up every day and you tell them where to go?
It will not be. It would be somebody who's filling in for like a maternity or paternity leave, something like that. So again, with an initial cost out of all of the pieces, I think we're don't want to forget about that there are some impacts from Schedule C and substitute teachers. So total increase when we use the new process, 61st percentile for certified staff, it would be a little over $2 million of an increase compared to what it would be if nothing changed. Just a couple additional notes and next steps I may have already mentioned, but curriculum rate is impacted by base pay, but that doesn't come necessarily through the staffing plan, but I just wanted to be transparent about that. Should not be significant, but wanted to mention it. Talked about the daily rate, base rate for the hourly rate for our certified staff, that's ties back to substitutes. We did and have talked quite extensively about bonus for hard-to-fill positions and have determined a formula based on the number of applicants who are qualified for a position to determine if it's a hard-to-fill position and having a $5,000 bonus. That would be, we have not worked out all the details of this, but it would be contingent upon signing the contract for the following school year and having it over a period of 3 to 5 years. That's what we're still kind of talking about, so that it's not just a one-time, you come for a year, we give you $5,000 and then you leave. Nope, you're making a commitment and you don't get your first payout until you sign your contract for the following year. And then if they choose to leave, they're gonna have liquidated damages that they would owe us. And so just again, trying to attract, but then while attracting, also maintaining them for 3 to 5 years. Schedule C, like I mentioned, we're gonna bring that committee back together. And then we have a lot of work to do in the next 2 weeks about staffing reductions and staffing in our buildings. So that we'll have an updated cost out with the staff who have been displaced and will need to be laid off, removed from those numbers.
All right, board members, any additional questions?
Thank you, thank you. It's a lot of work, a lot to wrap your heads around, and a lot of pieces of fare trying to manage, so thank you.
Well, and they have been super gracious and super helpful and trying to provide good, solid feedback. And I also appreciate that they, again, span from 2 years in the district to over 20 years in the district. And I truly believe that they're looking out for the best option for as many people as possible and not just themselves. And I think that has made the work meaningful and has earned the respect of their colleagues.
So not only thank you, but thank the committee as well, please. See them.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nur. Next is 11.03, Student Code of Conduct Review Ad Hoc Committee.
I'll ask Ms. McMasters to provide an update.
Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge. Yeah, I just want to give you a brief update around the student code of conduct review. Last month, as you remember, Mr. Holmes brought forward the recommendation to create the ad hoc committee to review the code of conduct 500. Since that time, a lot of work has been done. A lot of work's been done by Angela. I want to give her the kudos here because she's the one behind the scenes doing a lot of the work. So the committee members have been chosen. They represent students, staff, administrators, parents, and community members. So there's a nice wide range of 29 people, board members too. And so that committee is now set. There's been some work. I think you guys have been doing some stuff too. It's like getting some survey information from students. There's been survey information going out to get some information from staff ahead of the meeting. We have changed it to 2 night meetings rather than 4. It was gonna be 4, and that seemed like a lot, so we got it down to 2 hour plus meetings, 1 in February and 1 in April, with the hopes of bringing to the board in May the summary of our process and our stakeholder input, what key principles and themes that were identified throughout that process, and then revised policy language for policy 5500.
Board members have any questions? Ms. McMasters. Next, under 11.04, we have discussion of board activities. We have the Chamber of Commerce annual meeting that a number of us attended. Some of us stayed longer than others.
Some of us brought our whole family.
My knee was hurt. I had to get out of there. But it's a good event. It's good to have board members there. Obviously, that's part of what our commitment is, and the communication committee is important get out there and be seen. So, anybody else want to talk about the chamber meeting?
Good and good staff representation too. You know, a lot of people at the table over there as well.
All right, the WASB State Education Convention, we had, that's a significant time commitment. Yeah, we had a number of board members there, 3 of them there, and could have been 4, but for a personal injury.
Went down.
So the 3 that were there, what do you think of the education convention?
You know, it's excellent. We have a recommendation for a board book study. So you all sign up. It's gonna be good. But I did give some information. You can do an audiobook. It's on audio.
Is it by any chance Coherent Governance by John Kindle?
It's
Cultivating audacity.
It is, it is.
Yeah. But I did drop off some information with our student reps, just some good belongingness, and as we talk about at board all the time, our kids who struggle are the kids that haven't found a meaningful connection. So I know they're working hard all the time, but just a little more opportunity to maybe do some connecting statewide.
Maybe we give each a chance to talk, because that's a significant commitment going down there today.
It's long. But yeah, the overall theme was, connecting kids, finding their tribe so they can, connect and feel like they belong. I think Dennis probably, has the hardest time trying to get there with owning a business and his family, so I
Yeah, speaking
appreciated
of
it.
tribe,
Yeah, I got out for a few days. But no, it was a good time. I went to a lot of sessions on AI and other things that other districts are doing around the state, which is kind of interesting. So I thought it went really well. They had a lot of good sessions there, and I think we did a pretty good job of splitting them up. I don't.
Yep.
So we try to kind of hit different ones, but
excellent.
went well.
Well, thank you guys very much for representing us well. Were there any other activities? That's not a whole lot on this list. Anything else that was done that needs mentioning?
2 weeks for the holiday vacation, so that makes a difference. So, no.
Next is discussion of this meeting. Board members have any questions or comments regarding this meeting? Everyone feel like they had the opportunity to be heard?
I don't know, we're all kind of shy.
Yeah, we can go through this. I mean, not interrupt each other, not engage in side conversation. You keep having the side conversations with the students
That's
all
my
the
job,
time.
though. That's my job.
I don't see it.
We don't know who elected him, but it is his job.
Self-appointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we know who elected them. People that are already in bed right now and aren't watching this meeting. It's me. All right, so the meeting went relatively well. Approved of, right? Mr. Ginville?
As social studies people, do we do okay?
Approved of the meeting?
You know.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
I'd ask Mr. Bob what his thoughts are on the meeting.
Rob? Good to go?
I'm out of words for today. You were great.
Keep in mind, when you retire, there might be board seats open.
Sorry.
In Florida?
In Florida, yeah.
Florida, there's board seats?
That'd be interesting.
Future activities and upcoming events, January 29th from 4 to 8 is the district holiday and years of service recognition gathering. Right now, Sherry and Peggy are registered to attend. Let Angela know if you will be joining. February 11th is the Student Code of Conduct Review Ad Hoc Committee meeting. Sherry and Peggy will represent the board. February 18th is the board learning walk at Homestead Elementary School. February 23rd, Communication Committee meeting, no side conversations. Communication Committee meeting, February
We
20.
already did that part of it. We're done. I can
February
sign.
23rd, business after hours at the American Marine. February 24th is the Policy Committee meeting at the Administrative Building. And February 24th is also our regular board meeting. Any additional items that are coming up that might not be on this list that a board member would like to mention?
Well, just a side note, because of my relationship with our board student reference, when I go to the movie theater, she gives me extra butter on my popcorn.
And you report that on the.
My
See, that's something of value.
Well, at prices nowadays, that might be over $50. All right, 13.01.
At the end of the month,
What's that?
the wrestling tournaments here at the end of the month at the high school, 22nd maybe. I'd have to look to see exactly when, but should be a good time.
February, you mean? High school?
Yeah. Anything going on with the bands or the harmonics?
Harmonics will have, they just tore an Altoona, and they are gonna be at Memorial, so it's another close one, on February 7th, whatever that Saturday is.
You didn't just say that.
You did it.
Oh my God. I didn't even plan that. I'm sorry.
And with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Martineau, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by McElwain, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, we stand adjourned.